It's not every day that I meet a sister in the Lord who is a working actress. April Hernandez Castillo grew up in the Bronx, New York, and she's already giggling at me. And she calls herself a New
Nuyorican.
I knew I
A
would.
Nuyorican.
Because?
That is someone who's Puerto Rican, but they grew up in New York City all their life.
Is this a common term and I've just
It is.
missed
It
out?
is. It's actually it's part of who we are. If I go to Puerto Rico, I would totally stand out because I'm not Puerto Rican enough. Whatever that means.
That works all over the world.
It does.
When you leave the homeland.
Yes. Yes.
Well, it is a joy to meet you, and wow, you have a story. Maybe the first surprise is that growing up in the Bronx, we just picture all kinds of scary, tough stuff. But yours was a loving home, two parents.
I was blessed to have a foundation of a mother and a father, which was very rare, especially, growing up in the 80s and just being surrounded by drugs and just horrific things that you would think would not allow anyone to dream or to make it in life. But my parents really instilled morals and values at a young age.
Very good. Now, I know part of your dream was to be a nutritionist.
A nutritionist, yes.
Where did that go somewhere else?
Oh, well, it didn't go anywhere. I remember I was in college and I walked into the chemistry class and I figured, this isn't for me. This isn't going to happen. No. And so I walked into an acting improv class and it was love at first sight. And I never knew I wanted to be an actor because I was very athletic in high school. I dreamed of playing sports for a living and also just being able to become a nutritionist, but I'm an actor now.
Now, I hate to go to this is like a Disney movie. There's always the dark chapter.
The dark chapter.
And this all nearly derailed at the tender age of 16 in an abusive relationship, April.
Absolutely. I thought I was in love with Prince Charming, and I became very rebellious and was like, Mom, you don't understand him. And it became very violent. It was physical, emotional, mental, and it lasted for about 3 years. And I really thought that it would be the end of my life, just because that's how dangerous it was.
You know, the question is, why 3 years? Why didn't you get out of there?
That's always a question in people's minds. And when you're in an abusive relationship, you really don't know that it's happening, especially because I wasn't brought up with abuse. So if I was brought up with abuse, then I would have probably been able to recognize the signs.
And this is your first relationship.
And this is my first relationship. And so, the first 6-7 months, he's Prince Charming. That's in every relationship. And then the monster comes out and you're sort of caught off guard and you don't know how to react. And then you go through all the phases of shame and loneliness, really, but shame is what keeps you there.
Keeping it a secret.
Keeping it a secret. And I didn't know I would be an amazing actress at the time, and I would just lie to everyone. I became an amazing liar, especially to my father. Just one time I had bruises on my arms, and it was because of, a night of being abused. And my father was like, oh, what's that on your arm? And I said, oh, Dad, we were wrestling. I lied a lot. And I also felt like I had to protect my family because I knew that if I exposed this person at that time, my father would have retaliated and he would have gone to jail. That's just the way it is, unfortunately.
So complex.
Very complex.
But you feel very thankful that you got out in one piece.
Oh, praise God. Because I knew that God had a purpose for me, and I knew that I was a fighter, and I knew I was a survivor, and I knew that I had purpose. Even before knowing what purpose or Christ really was, I just knew I was meant to be someone.
Now, I don't know if the light breaks through here in terms of your acting dream with a Super Bowl commercial. Was that the first thing?
That was my first paid gig, and it was with Yao Ming and Yogi Berra. And I just remember being so elated and excited just because this was my first time being an actor on a real set, and I was getting paid. And I said, oh, I think I can do this. I like this as an actor. And they said, do you know who Yao Ming is? And I said, no. And when he walked in, this very tall Asian man, and I was like, I'm 5 feet, I'm like a hobbit. And it was probably the most amazing experience of my life.
How did they find you?
Just auditioning. It was my first time ever auditioning and getting into that process, which I had no clue what I was doing. But they asked me to say yo, and I said, of course. That's who I am. That's New York. Yo, of course. And I booked it, and I've been working ever since.
Well, this would open doors in TV. I'm wondering if I've seen you on Law and Order or ER, and
Yes,
be nice
yes.
to go back and find you.
I know.
Big break 2007 with a Hollywood movie.
Mm-hmm.
Hilary Swank, Patrick Dempsey.
Mm-hmm. It was amazing. It really was. It was like that moment that every actor dreams about, receiving that phone call saying, you booked the part, and then taking on such a powerful story with real lives. And just working with Hilary Swank was just amazing. It really was.
Freedom Writers.
Freedom Writers, yes.
You haven't seen the movie, watching. Now, there's another breakthrough here with a gentleman named Jose Castillo.
My husband.
Now, he was not a believer when you met.
Neither of us were. We were together for about 6 years before coming to Christ. And I was living in LA, living the big Hollywood dream. And he was in New York City. And it was just one of those moments where I was like, you need help. Get a therapist, become a Buddhist. I don't know. And he ended up finding Christ. And I said, yeah, that's cute. I don't know if that's going to work for me in my Hollywood life. And God had a plan. And so I moved from LA to New York, and he took me out of Hollywood for a little while.
That's the shortened version.
That's the shortened
But
version.
I loved learning that he actually did a men's retreat, and you got a different man on the end of that weekend.
Oh, yes. Absolutely.
And you weren't too happy initially.
I
with the
was
new
not
guy.
happy. I remember it's called The Encounter at my church, Words of Life Christian Center. And he told me on Friday, he says, I don't think I will be returning as the same man. And I said, great. Oh, that'd be amazing. And when he came back, I really didn't like it. I was like, God, I don't really appreciate this. I don't like this change, because I hadn't gone through that change just
Until
yet.
you went to a
Until I
women's
went.
retreat.
Yes, I went to the women's retreat, and my life changed. I understood the encounter with Jesus Christ. Although my process wasn't as smooth or easy as his was, just because I'm a fighter.
You talk about, and
I'm
I
a
think it's
fighter.
so important in everybody's journey to recognize Jesus had a wilderness experience, and you had a 3.5-year desert time, a real spiritual desert.
Oh, yes. It was brutal. It was because I came from Hollywood into living a Christian walk. I didn't know anyone who experienced my life. So it was like coming from the mountaintop literally into a valley, and not having anyone to really help me along the way. So I became very frustrated, and I would scream at God. I'm like, how could you do this to me? How could you take me to the mountaintop and just rip it away? But he had to. He had to really do that and build my character, because it was intense.
Whole new beginning, whole new person, new creation.
Absolutely.
But you talk about important lessons in that desert.
Oh, yes.
That have certainly shaped who you are and prepared you for what we're going to be learning about in a moment in terms of your ministry. But share one or two things that you would say to someone who's in that dry place right now. It seems as if God's not answering prayer. It's not fun. Can't see the way ahead.
Yes, I would say, girl, hold on. It really was him stripping my identity of who I thought I was supposed to be. I was supposed to be Jennifer Lopez. I was supposed to be that girl that made it out and be rich and famous and all these things, and he didn't want that for me at that time. He just wanted me to just decompress and appreciate who I was at that time. Just because of the abuse I endured, I never got therapy. I never told anyone my story, and so it was heavy for my soul.
So it was a time of healing.
It was, although I didn't know at the time. I was a brat. I was a brat. I said, gosh, Lord, thank you for your grace, because I was a brat. I really was. But he knows that there's someone else out there who's going to fight and kick and scream, and who I would be able to minister to and say one day, it's okay. He's doing it for a purpose.
And you're not done yet.
Oh, he's nowhere near done, but it gets better.
Tell us what you and Jose are doing together today.
Wow, well, we're first-time parents. It's been my first year as being a mom, and so my daughter Summer Rose has completely taken us to another level
What a
of
beautiful
living.
name,
Summer Rose.
Rose.
Yes, and so we also have a film company called Lion Chaser Films, and it's been about 3 years production, and we just like to tell stories. You know, it was something where God gave us the ability to use our talents and to really bring purpose through visuals.
You also understandably have a heart for youth who are struggling, and Bold Faith Ministries goes to some of the tough ones who need to know there's a different future.
Absolutely. My husband and I are also youth chaplains, and so we minister to pretty much the unchurched and incarcerated youth. And I just have a soft spot for them. I just feel like they are forgotten, and they have so much purpose. These kids, if you speak with them, you listen to them, they just want love. They really do. And I'm like, there's no other love greater or better than Jesus Christ. And so I use Freedom Riders as the tool. And then I go in there like a spiritual ninja. And I preach the word, but it's boldly. It's the way I am. It's the way God created me to be. And I've learned to love myself that way and try not to be anyone else but fabulous.
Your parents still cheering you on?
Absolutely, absolutely. I wouldn't be able to be a parent without them. They're really amazing.
Well, God writes amazing stories, and you're so young. There's so many more chapters to come.
Yes.
Well, the Lord bless you.
Thank you.
And the work of your hands, whatever it happens to be,
Yes.
whether it's working with youth or raising that beautiful Summer Rose
Yes.
or starring on something on the big screen.
Absolutely. Yes. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Wow.